Hi, I'm Stuart Clark, the Managing Director of Russell & Russell.
And I'm Yvonne Webb of Action Coach Business Coaching. And together we are your co-hosts and sponsors of Glasgow Business Stories. We hope you're loving Glasgow Business Stories. So if you are, please do us a favour and subscribe. New episodes drop every 2 weeks, and we want you to hear all the wonderful stories from the businesses here in Glasgow. So please subscribe now. Sarah, welcome to Glasgow Business Stories. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
So we'll start by just asking, tell everyone who you are and what you do.
I am Sarah Haran, and I'm often known as the bag lady because I design and sell handbags online mostly. So yeah, that's me. Handbag designer, I suppose you could say.
Yeah, that's better than bag lady, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah,
well,
I think
yes,
so.
I think you're probably right. Yes, it's probably true.
So
Yes.
tell us, how did you get into that business?
Probably not by design, probably. I never wrote down when I was 18 that I was going to be a handbag designer. I think if I had, my mother and father would probably have shot me on the spot. But it started as a hobby. And I was just looking for something to do. I was working in tech and it was quite a busy job. Really at sort of the start of the internet as we understand it today. And I was traveling a lot and just needed a hobby and thought that I'd make handbags, as you do. Now, that said, I did used to make clothes and my mother taught me to sew. So I did have an actual understanding of some of the requirements. But yeah, it was just a bit of fun.
So working in tech to handbag designer, it's quite different.
Yes, quite diverse, isn't it? Yes, yeah. Yeah. I think that was the point to start with, that I'd always liked making things, and I had really liked doing clothing in particular. And I did say to my mother, to be fair, when I was about 18, that I wanted to go and do sort of fashiony stuff. And she says, don't be ridiculous. It's a tough industry and no, get a job. In fact, go to secretarial school and learn to type was her first bit of advice. And also make sure you know how to do shorthand. And to be fair, that has stood me in good stead. I did get, 2 really good jobs to start with. And then that just led on to me into business, I think. And then I moved to Scotland and got into tech. And again, it wasn't that I tried to look for a job in tech like we do today. It was very much, come into sort of account management. And by the way, we're a tech business. And I don't even think in those days people would have called themselves a tech business. In fact, they were actually selling phone systems, actually, in reality. But that just shows you how things have changed over the years. And then I decided to leave the role I was in and start doing handbags full time. I was doing it, as I say, as a hobby. And it was kind of a little bit woven into the business I was working in because we were building websites for small businesses. And back in those days, people didn't know what a website is, which is hard to imagine actually, but when you think about it nowadays, but back in the day, they didn't. And we were phoning like small businesses, like, bread and breakfast businesses saying, you really must get onto the internet. And they're like, I don't even have a computer. Well, go to the library. You need a website. And so we were kind of selling these and we needed, businesses, or we need to show like a case study, I suppose, what a business could do with a website. And so we constructed a website for my hobby business. And that was really probably the start of it, turning into anything more than just me making handbags at home.
I mean, it started as a hobby. Was that you just making them for yourself primarily, for friends?
Yeah, for me, really. And that was really driven by going about in my job every day and needing a bag. So I was building a bag or designing a bag, I suppose, that suited me for my lifestyle, mostly for work. And then I started to get really into it and thought I better learn to do this properly. And so bought all the equipment, a bit like when you start golf, you've got to have everything, because it's going to make you better at golf, honestly. But I did buy all the stuff. And surprisingly, in handbag making, you don't really need a lot of equipment. Obviously, you need a sewing machine, a skiving machine. So there's sort of sets of things that help. And I wanted to do that because then friends did start to ask me to make a bag for them. And then I was conscious that, I didn't want it to look like, some sort of little handicrafted thing. So I got better at it. And eventually it got to the point where I was getting more orders and managed to get a small set of customers. And it got to that point then where I was like, well, this can either just carry on as is, or I could actually do something with it. So I thought I should do something with it.
And how long was that period from you kind of doing your first bag for yourself to kind of actually make the leap?
Probably a couple of years, I would say. Yeah. And I know that probably sounds like a long time, but of course, because I was doing it as like a hobby, it didn't feel like I was trying to create something that was going to be a business. It was just something I was enjoying doing. It made me switch off from the 24-hour nature of the internet business. And I was the chief operating officer. So it really was 24/7. You couldn't just no, it's the weekend now. Don't you dare phone me, because that wasn't how it operated. So it was quite good to have the bag thing just so that I wasn't always thinking about work. And I found it and I actually found it did make me switch off, because then I realized I could actually see visually in my head the bags that I was trying to design. And so that did make me actually think about it. And I didn't really have time to be thinking about EasyJet's website's down. I'll just think about my bag thing for the moment. So yeah, I found that quite therapeutic.
And did you still enjoy it the first few years when it started being a business and it was sort of like, okay, this is my job.
This is real now.
Yeah.
I think what you get is clearly not a hobby anymore. So that in a way is a bit of find another hobby, but actually the whole thing has become I suppose it's broadened rather than just the making side now. And I do have an atelier in Turkey, and now they make most of the samplings, the bits that I really liked doing. I can't really do anymore because there isn't really the time. But it means I can sketch things and then I can make things and staple do all sorts of weird things. So it's not a very traditional way of doing design. But then since I haven't been really trained in it, I just do whatever works. And the factory have kind of got used to it. And in a way, most design colleges or universities, they don't teach you how to actually make something anyway. It's more about, I'll draw a pretty picture or I'll do a collection. But actually, when you speak to most designers, they couldn't make the stuff, which is kind of sad as well. But I can, and that does help in the production. Because if I look at it and I think, that seems to be taking an awful long time, and time is money in terms of production, because if it takes a long time to make, then they're going to charge me more for the end product. So those skills I found to be quite useful when they try and say something can't be done. And I'm like, well, you could do this, or you could shorten it by doing that. So yeah, that's kind of helpful.
And what was it that wasn't in the market that you needed?
So I mean, yeah, let's be honest, there are thousands of handbags, and obviously there are thousands of companies making handbags in some shape or form. Even if you think about making a plastic bag to take your food away from Sainsbury's, still a bag. So for me, it was about having a bag that I could actually change the look of. And I could use all day. And you might say, oh, well, any bag will do that. But for me, I wanted to be able to go from day to night really easily. I wanted to not have to travel and take loads of bags with me. So what my range has kind of evolved into is you can buy almost like a foundation bag, and then you can add bits to it, and the bag comes apart, not like not like falls apart or anything, but it's got a bag on the front. So you could use that as a separate bag at night. And in between you can decorate it and change it. So there isn't anything really like that on the market. Sometimes I wonder if that's for a reason. When you're having your next daily challenge, you think, oh, that's why nobody's actually done this. But for me, it is a sort of a functional, useful type thing. But I also wanted a really nice bag as well. So there are plenty of functional, like computer bags and all that sort of thing. But then if you are going out in the evening, you don't really want a big backpack with your computer in. So I know it's hard to imagine as a guy, like, why would you do this? But yeah, it does seem to resonate with, females. Haven't done many man bags yet, but give me time. But it's that moving through your day, and having everything with you. And for me, a bag, is a bag. But as I've gone on this journey, what's been so interesting is why people have a bag. And some people are really very obsessed with their bags. And they won't have gold bags, they won't have silver bags. And there's a whole load of things that go with it. But a bag is the one thing that most females will carry with them and take with them everywhere they go. A lot of people will not leave home without their handbags, be it a small bag or a big bag. So for me, that's about, okay, you've got this bag. It helps you get through the day. You've got everything you need in it. You might be carrying things that make you feel more confident. You might be carrying mementos or whatever. And it's just, it makes you feel better having these things with you. And then if you can change it, and the joy from that bag, is what really has turned into something that I really did not expect. And I don't think I could have written a business plan that says you will get joy from handbags, and you'll find other women that get joy from them, and you'll end up building a community. At the end of the day, it is essentially a handbag, which is kind of strange as well.
And so tell us a bit about your range and the accessories, because you started off with one
Yes,
style.
we started off with, in fact, here's one I made earlier. Not quite so literally, obviously. So this was actually made by my atelier, but it's almost the same thing as we started with. They've probably improved it with their better skills than me. So a tote bag, this is our Dahlia. But the thing that makes the bag different really is that you can take that front off of the bag, which doesn't sound that interesting really. But what you've then got is a smaller bag that you can then take that with you into the event that you're at. You don't need really in an evening event. If you're networking, you probably just want to have a small bag. You can put your phone in, your lippy, notes, whatever. Yvonne gets it. You get it. Yeah.
I've got pockets, so
You've got pockets, you see. That's right. Yes, the killer of handbags, pockets. So yeah, that should probably be on my swatch, shouldn't it? But yes, females like that. And then the thing is that if you're going to something later on, well, you don't want to be seen twice wearing the same outfit. And that's often the same thing with a handbag as well. So we have all these different accessories that you can then put on to that same bag. And that means you can change the look of the bag, and it can then match the outfit that you might have on that day. If you're going straight and you're working, say, corporate, maybe wearing a black outfit or dark blue or grey, these sort of general colours, girls might then want to have a bright coloured bag that makes them stand out a little bit at night, makes them feel a bit more confident, makes them feel as if they've not just gone from the office for drinks after work. These sorts of things do matter because, as we know, people do make judgments about how you look within, 3 seconds or something.
So you said it was Stuart's outfit earlier?
Oh, that's right. Yes. Well, it's manly. Yeah. So yeah. And then that leaves you that bag, but then you could be leaving stuff inside your bag. All of them have got lots and lots, you can't really see, but lots of pockets. So again, you're not in a meeting where you can't find your pen, or you can't find something, because you do want to look professional. And again, it sounds really like stupid and small in the, like it's hardly a first world issue, but if you're that person, you want to find your pen and look professional, then, it says something about you that you can find your pen. And then we do other sort of like little accessories that you can then put onto the bags. So it's just this whole thing about building up a look without having to change the bag itself. The bags inside, most of the pocket formations now are all the same. So if you want to change a bag, it means you can still fit in everything in the way that you've become accustomed to. It's a bit like filing. You know that XYZ fits in said file or said drawer. That's probably a bit organizational, but and then all of these pieces that we have for our bags, they can move between all of our different bags. So this accessory could be used on if you've got, and some of our customers do have maybe 10, 20, I don't like to count, bags anyway. And this enables them just to change the look of them and keep up to date with trends and all of that, again, without having to buy another big bag. And so it goes on. And we've now got a range of about 15 different bags, really sort of tote size, which is the bigger size. And then you've got mini bags, because obviously since COVID, people think that they need to carry less. And as tech has embedded itself more into your phone, theoretically, you can carry less. Pockets come into this point at that point. But a lot of females carry more than and can't function without all of the stuff for whatever reason in their handbag.
So is that a mini bag then, or is it
So this would be more of a mini bag, yeah. And we've got some that are smaller than that. Probably this type of bag is like more of an accessory, but it sort of sits in the middle because you could use it as a bag as well. And then as it gets really more complicated, and it's more complicated even in the design these days, because you could actually put two bags together and then you could clip them, and then you're what we call double bagging, honestly. But again, if you're traveling, you might have your passport and everything in one bag. You might wear it crossbody. You might have different things like lippy and all that stuff in the front bag. So again, if you land in a country and you're on an aeroplane, you take everything you need for the plane. It fits under the seat. You then probably leave that in the hotel for the duration of your holiday, and you're probably then just using your small bags. And then these small bags, when you're out touring, whatever, you're going out in the evening then, and then you just want to dress up a bag. So you don't need to take as many bags on holiday as you might well have thought. And then you can just take accessories, and it can, again, just by changing the look of things. So I'm sure there is definitely a sustainability story in amongst that as well. But yeah, that was the concept, and it's become quite complex.
Now, being an accountant, the first thing that pops in my head is like, okay, how many different variations is that? Because there must be so many different options that people can then, as you say, stylize no matter what event they're going to then.
Exactly. And that actually, yes, a lot of people say to me, oh, well, could we just go onto your website and can we just pick things? And as you've actually just said there, it's like there is limitless options. So actually, it just does not make sense to be able to have one of these have your bag and then drop a picture on it, and then you can change it because it is limitless. So that is like, for my head, it's like, oh my God. But then fashion itself is often limitless as well. And so what I've realized with this is that if somebody has got maybe 2 or 3 styles of bags, as long as the stuff can move between it, it means that they're getting full use of it. And rather than having to buy a big bag every season, they are then able to change that original bag. Most women buy 3 bags on average a year. A lot of our customers certainly buy more than that, fortunately. But when I sort of got into this and it sort of moved from being a hobby business, it's like, oh, I've got to do a business plan, or I've got a spreadsheet. What is this worth? Can I make money out of this? Is it a business at all? So one of the things that I realized was that when you start a new month, you'll know this, you've got a blank sheet and you've got possibly no money coming in. And if you're in retail, it's kind of like, God, where's the money coming from here? Am I going to pay the wages? So I really thought hard about how I could get a recurring revenue out of selling a product that somebody traditionally wouldn't come back to you for, really. And so I thought about these accessories being a way that somebody would come back to you. They would spend again. They might not spend as much the second time, but they would then still be able to use that same bag. And so for me, it was that building of a revenue stream that at least I had some sort of way of going into the month knowing I've got something else to sell, rather than having to acquire an entirely new customer to buy a bag, which for me felt like quite a mammoth task.
Well, a psychological impact as well, where, for a customer, they're not buying a brand new bag, which is maybe a big outlay. They can buy an accessory, which then is giving them another option, and it feels like a brand new bag to them.
Exactly. And then they can match that to their outfit. So, if they are fashion related, if they love fashion, they can extend that then to their bag. It's a bit like pimping your outfit. I don't think we're allowed to. Well, I avoid the word pimping, obviously, for obviously its connotations, but, and also Facebook wouldn't like that word. So we can't use it as an advert, but, it is what you're really doing. It's like buying a car, isn't it? It's like you buy it off the shelf, or you go through the whole process of having it customized. And this is what you're getting with a handbag, the ability to customize it. And not just customize it by putting your initials on it, because everyone does that. It's like boring. And do you want your initials on your bag anyway? I mean, sometimes you might just say, well, I actually know what my initials are. So this is enabling you to really customize it based on maybe how you dress. And again, people dress in different ways. So if you're in corporate, you're probably much more classic or chic, because that's the environment you're working in. But if you work in fashion, you're probably more quirky, maybe a bit more bold, a bit more out there. So it means you can actually dress your bag to your style personality. Now, it's not as if I knew this in the beginning, I hasten to add. This has been an evolution of the business as I've learned more about my customer base, and tried to obviously develop the business and grow it beyond what it was initially, just me in a room selling a few handbags.
And let's talk a bit about your customer base then, because you've got a whole community following.
Yes.
You've got what we would call raving fans. We were talking earlier about a person we know in common who I think has got everything you have to sell, because they're so invested in the brand, they buy everything. Yeah. How did you build that up?
Unexpectedly, I would say. And as I said earlier, I definitely did not write that in any business plan anywhere. And I think nowadays it's probably like people can go in with that concept, but, I just got a page on Facebook and due to COVID, realized that I actually did need to sell the bags that I had ordered pre-COVID. And I was like, what's going to happen with these bags? And I've got a couple of staff to pay. So, and officially with COVID, remember, we were all locked down, not going out. And it's kind of like, well, handbag is about going out. So that was a bit of a concern. So the small amount of customers, about 200 at the start of COVID, I guess. I know. And, I remember thinking, and it literally was sort of a back of a fag packet thing. I worked out, well, I've got these overheads. We're still running the business from my home, fortunately. And, I've got one proper member of staff. I've got some freelancers. So what do I really need to keep this going through what was only going to be, a 3-month period? So I literally thought, well, if everybody paid for one bag at £500, that would last for 3 months. And if I gave them something to encourage them to do that, spend their money with me, then I might have a chance of still keeping the business running. And I've got the bags anyway, because the delivery had just arrived. So I literally, on April Fool's Day, wrote an email that literally said, this isn't an April Fool, but if you like handbags and love them, all you need to do is spend £500 today. And over the next 3 months, and it actually wasn't even 500 on that very day. It was like 3 months to spend £500. I will give you a bag that's worth £300 to £500. So that resonated. People had time, and that just took off, and it gave us a point of difference. We were already doing Facebook advertising anyway because we were direct to consumer, so that helped. We weren't scrabbling to learn Facebook, and so I think anybody at the sort of the start of COVID, you see all these explosion of internet businesses. They're the ones that have probably done better or sort of stuck there because they already had the infrastructure in place. They were already advertising on Facebook, which I do think helped. And it just grew from there, really. And then as we came out of COVID, fortunately, people started going out a bit more. And then they really got into the whole concept of that community that we built. Every Friday, I would do videos, and it was just me. I didn't even really know how to do that, to be honest. And it literally was on my phone. The lighting was appalling. I mean, it was just like a car crash. But every Friday, I would go up there and say, right, well, here's the bag, and I would give people sort of ways to wear the bags. Buy this bag and then you can add these pieces. And for some people that became a bit of a Friday highlight. Early on, I started sort of saying to people, if you've got anybody that you think's doing a really good job and really needs a bit of joy, because they're doing things like in the NHS, the doctors, they're filling shelves, then let's reward them and give them a surprise, and I'll send them a bag if you tell me who they are. So we built that sort of momentum of just sending things out each week. And that just sort of brought a bit of joy to people. And then we felt as if we weren't just sitting at home spending loads of money on handbags. You know, we were trying to contribute in a very small way, which was kind of nice. And that just really built the community from there. It's obviously harder building a community nowadays because things like GDPR and all of this sort of stuff do get in the way of building communities. It's very hard to find a community nowadays. You can't really just find a community by placing an advert on Facebook and saying, I'm looking for women, like X amount. The only thing you can do now is females, age, the age bracket. But it's very difficult to find them based on interests or create audiences like what you could do pre-COVID or as part of COVID. So now we have a community and we work hard on keeping that community together, trying to make it exciting. I know it sounds a bit weird, handbags and communities, but it's become an online group where people have met each other, they're talking to each other, they're supporting each other. There's a lot of direct messaging that goes on, just like in any sort of like golf club or, friendships have been built through this. And we've had people that didn't even know that they lived in the same street and then have seen each other because they've been carrying one of our bags and they've gone, I've got one of those. And then they realize in the same street, or at airports, or if they are doing the, as we were talking this morning, that early morning flights, you'll see people that have got a bag and they're like, oh, hi, through bleary eyes. But that's a sort of community that we've unexpectedly built, which has probably been a bit of a joy, and people are quite supportive of each other.
And what community events do you do currently? Because you mentioned you had one last night.
Yeah, so we had so every quarter we launch a new quarter with a community. So a community chat, when we get interesting other people to talk, often just women or men that have done interesting things, or we had Jules Sandish on last night. So she's all about colour and runs a London School of or London College of Fashion. And she talked to us all about the colours and what effect it can have on your life. Just wearing black every day, it can make you feel a little bit depressed after a while. But if you pop it with a bit of yellow, it can give you a lift. To all of these sorts of things. And she's telling our community about this. And these are interesting subjects. And if you're interested in that, of course. But we've had lots of different people, had a few men as well. And it's just chatting, really. And it's a reason to get together, have a chat. And then we also introduce every quarter a new VIP bag. So people join the VIP scheme so that they can, every penny they spend goes towards then getting a complimentary bag that they then own. And there's a bit of fun around having this bag, how they can then style it. So then they will show it in the group. So it all just sort of gets a bit of momentum. I suppose it's very like if you're into golf or any hobby that you've probably got, you want to talk to people that get you and are interested in that hobby. And probably like somebody that's not into that isn't really that interested. And you know, if you've got handbags and you love to buy handbags, you might, in your friend group, not have other friends that are really that interested. They sort of think you might be the crazy one spending all your money on bags, but actually, for whatever reason, that's something they enjoy. So they then want to talk to somebody about it. And because of the ability to change and style our bags, that creates a conversation. And at the end of the day, it's about human connection. And yes, it's just a handbag, but it's still humans connect. And I think business is really about connection at the end of the day, I guess.
It's another level of that joy, isn't it? You know, there's the joy of buying it, but there's joy of sharing that with someone else and someone
Absolutely.
else having
the same thing, you know, the joy of talking. Like my husband comes home and he's delighted to talk about, you know, his round of golf. For me, it kind of washes over me. I'm like, how many balls did you lose? How long did it take? You know, 5 hours, really? Oh, you know, but that's what he's into. Or, yeah, so it's the same sort of thing. And probably for our customers, they're not going to get their husbands that excited about how they change the look of their handbag. But in our community, and there's a lot of sharing. Oh, I never thought you would do that with your bag. Oh, I never thought that would go with that. You know, so it's
sparks ideas.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say, so does that bring you joy? Like you've talked a lot about joy and like in the customer. Is that what brings you joy, bringing that community together, designing handbags, like seeing how people use them in different ways? Like, what's joy for you? Yes.
And so again, I never wrote down, my mission is to bring joy to people, but it has become a bit of that. You know, life is complex and there's always something going on and you don't know what's going on in other people's lives. So even if for 5 minutes, you get pleasure from a product that just gives you that sort of lift. And for me, that does bring me joy because I think, well, you know, I'm not curing some terrible disease or something, but I'm just giving something that brings a bit of joy to somebody's day to day. And that's probably hard to do in the world that we live in and the chaos of the world these days. So yeah, and I think about that and I take time with the designs to make sure that they work. We do have really good customer service and obviously all businesses say that. But I really do take that on board and we've got over 10,000 5-star reviews. And we do go the extra mile for customers. If they've forgotten to put something in their cart or they've ordered the wrong thing, you know, it's all these sorts of things. And we talk to them and that whole community is an enabler of that. I don't really want to be a global faceless handbag company. For me, really would take the joy of it well away. And having worked in tech previously and worked in a company that became a public company and well aware of the stresses that public company life can bring. And I have definitely taken the decision that that's really not for me. Now, that's not to say that I don't want the business to get to those sorts of proportions. But I certainly would not be the person in charge of it at that point. That would be definitely not. It's a job for somebody else at that point.
And you have got a global community at the moment, haven't you, yourself?
Yeah.
In how many different countries?
So, well, we've got America is really strong for us. And that's been something that we've been really building on. Brexit killed our Irish, French, German, those sorts of places, which actually I was quite sad about the German thing because sort of the functionality side of our bags very much appeals to the German market. But what doesn't appeal to the German market is the duty that you have to pay. And it's a bitter pill for our American customers at the moment as well, because you do have to pay duties, unfortunately. But it is kind of nice knowing that somebody like many miles away is carrying one of our bags. So for me, that's another little bit of joy. And it does show that the brand could develop and the concept has got legs. Or, yeah, some sort of legs anyway. Yeah.
So I love what you've done. It's amazing what you've done just from a hobby, isn't it? To not only a product, but the community and beyond. And it's much more than just a handbag. So we always finish the podcast just by asking, what's your guiding principles in business?
So I think, well, I've got apart from the joy thing, which really is sort of the overall sort of northern light, I guess. And I try and think about everything in the, if we do this, is it going to bring joy? And actually coming from the previous business that I was in, it wasn't really a joyful community. It wasn't a joyful community because it was tech, it was corporate, it was, we were making money for shareholders. So sometimes I do have to think to myself and say, no, that might be a really good corporate choice, but for our community, that's not the way to go. So we try and hold that in our heads, but also be practical as well, because at the end of the day, we are running a commercial business. So got to be sensible. My accountant probably doesn't like my joyful nature sometimes. And then for me, it's about trying to be easy to do business with. And I think that is something that I've learned through tech. Be easy to do business with. So I do hold that. And every day is a school day. And for me, I think my career would show that I really have taken that on, because there are still things I don't know. And I don't think there'll ever be a day where I'll know everything, despite what I tell my kids, obviously. But yeah, you don't know what you don't know. And so I think these things, you've just got to hold that in your head, because business is about adventure and learning and being willing to take on different challenges, because otherwise, if you don't do that, your business probably won't be here.
Well, look, well done on what you've achieved so far. I wish you all the best for the future. And thanks for joining us today on the podcast.
It's been lovely. Thank you very much for having me, and good luck with this, because this is a new venture as well. So, yeah.